Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another exciting podcast interview. On today's show, I have Jonathan Lucenay. He is the CEO and founder of Client Command, and today we're going to take a deep dive into first-party data management and why CDPs are table stakes for today's competitive dealer. Welcome, Jonathan, to the podcast.
Thanks, Brian. Always good to be with you.
You know, Jonathan, you and I talked before we started today's interview that there's a lot of players in the market. There's room for competition. There's different styles. But you made a real good point. I want to come out punching hard on this podcast interview. Every dealer is spending money on marketing, but if they're not using the power of data and the resources that are available to them today, they're just spraying, praying, and going to wildly miss their sales objectives. Do you have a story, a database story, Jonathan, that would wake people up right at the beginning of this podcast and make them tune in for the entire show?
Yeah, Brian, I think about it like this. We spend 100% of our marketing dollars trying to drive either sales or service or brand awareness, right? It's one of those three things.
Yep.
So let's take a look at sales. In the state of Texas today, there are 22.5 million adults. But today, last 24 hours, only 45,000 of those adults have actually been online shopping for a car. That's not 1%. That's not 1/2 of 1%. It's less than 0.2 of 1%. So when you start thinking about, hey, I want to communicate with people that want to buy what I'm selling, you have to know who they are. You have to know exactly where the consumer is in their journey and what they're shopping for. And if you have that data, you can drive efficacy in your marketing that you've never seen before. And you can leverage a bunch of the CDP tools. Client Command has one. There's some other great companies in the market. But really, it has to start with great data. And if you get to the consumer fast enough, our data shows us that your gross profit as a dealer on that transaction will be 38% higher than a consumer you don't talk to as soon as they come in the market.
Man, we got to unpack that because, man, you're swinging hard and I love it. So let's step back 1 second. The reason why you know how many active shoppers are in the state of Texas, it's because you have a patent for the active shopper network, which weighs the many signals that consumers leave behind as they're shopping online and engaging. An active shopper isn't someone who just looks at a car on one day and never looks at another car again. There's some thresholding, meaning they have to show some intent. But let's talk about the patent. You are delivering to local dealers audiences of consumers that don't have to be on their website, but who are out shopping. That's existing customers and conquest customers. Let's talk about how long the Active Shopper Network has been operating and how powerful is that network in capturing shopping signals.
And we created the Active Shopper Network in 2018, and we patented it. And it is what I believe the way you write about it in your blogs and in your CDP report is level 3.
Yep.
Meaning it will identify if a customer, the dealer has data on, so whether CRM, DMS, website data, is shopping for a car on the dealer's properties, but it will also tell you if they're shopping somewhere else. In fact, it will tell you if your competitors' customers start shopping before they get to your website, or your customers start shopping before they come back to your website. Literally, as soon as they're in the market, real time, they're identified and you have the opportunity to engage with them. So the Active Shopper Network effectively allows a dealer, whether it be for sales or service, to communicate with their consumers, their customers, or the customers they want to be theirs, their competitors' customers, and say, this is what we've got. And we can go as far as putting the dominant buying motive in what the consumer is shopping for so that the message really hits home really, really quickly.
So let's put some guardrails now onto the Active Shopper Network. This is a platform that a dealer can subscribe to. It allows the dealer to ingest their customer data. It will alert the dealer, as a CDP would do, when their customers are on their website without filling out a form. Also, when their customers are out shopping at competitors or on a third-party marketplace. Since it's the dealer's customer, you're going to notify them. The dealer can email them, direct mail them, or call them because they already have permission to use that data. Now, what about the other side, Jonathan? If I'm a Ford dealer in a local market, you're also, because you're a level 3 identity resolution network. So let's do level 1 are for CDPs that will tell dealers when their customers are on their website after they've filled out a form. Level 2, the CDP will tell dealers a portion of the anonymous shoppers that come to their website, but only their website. And level 3 is, of course, 1 and 2 plus when people are out shopping. So for conquest campaigns, you're going to be able to tell a Ford dealer, hey, these are the people in your local market that are shopping for a Ford. What does your CDP platform allow the dealer to do in regards to outreach and marketing? What channels can be activated before that person fills out a form on the dealer's website or calls them?
Yeah, so the dealer can talk to that customer in one-to-one via email, direct mail, phone call, provided that they third party that or they have their own BDC, do it appropriately, and we can give them some guidance on what that looks like. They can talk in audiences on social or OTT or display that require a larger size audience, so that the dealer really can get to these people instantly and target their advertising, their marketing towards the consumer. And in the cases of the one-to-one channels, Brian, you can actually have a conversation. You can start communicating with the customer. You can use SMS on our platform and communicate with the customer in real time from day one.
You know, Jonathan, when we think of the potential competitive advantage that a CDP with level 3 identity resolution has, this allows dealers who are underperforming in their market or have new competitors come in the market, for sure. But I also see this as an amazing tool for a new point, right? A dealer who does not have a robust customer list, they come into a new market, they obviously will have some local competition. By using the Active Shopper Network paired with your marketing platform, or if they want to do the marketing through their own existing agency, either one, you're going to give them the ability to have a real active shopper list, not a modeled list or a lookalike list. Can you talk about those use cases when dealers really need to increase the number of opportunities that they have to sell a car?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does apply to the use cases you mentioned where a dealer's underperforming or perhaps they're new in the market. But it also applies to the dealers that own a market, because they're great. And they're great because they execute well and they look for the competitive advantage. We work with OEMs, agencies, dealer groups, and individual single point dealers. in order to give them a list of consumers or an audience of consumers that are shopping for exactly what they want to sell, so that they can target that audience. So ad agencies will take it, they will wrap it into all of the work they do on behalf of that dealer and see massive upside in effectiveness. Individual single points or dealer groups will use our platform and they will go ahead and activate it themselves and say, no, we can do that directly. And then a lot of our customers have a blend, right? They have their ad agency do some creative, they have their ad agency manage some campaigns, and then they do some of it themselves.
Well, Jonathan, in my CDP research report, which listeners can download by going to pashgroup.com, and you'll see as one of the research report, it's entitled The Rise of CDPs in Automotive Retail. I talk about 3 different models, CDPs that are just designed for large scale, large multi-rooftop groups. It's just for the unification of data with very robust APIs and integrations. And we have a closed platform that does CDPs and marketing, but it's an all-in proposition. So not many APIs, little less transparency, but it's turnkey. The dealer doesn't have to worry. And then there's the hybrid platforms, which Client Command is there. A dealer who wants you to do all the marketing within the channels that you do, they can do it and say, outsource it, do it for me. Or if the dealer just wants to use your data as a service or your platform as a service, they can do that. Or hybrid. Hey, Client Command, you do a great job with email and direct mail, but we're going to run the Facebook and Google in-house. Talk to me about your willingness to collaborate, to be open. Not everyone believes that that's a good mix. I believe it. It's how our agency works. We'll plug in and fill gaps. I see Client Command is really the perfect gap filler for any size dealership. Talk to me a little bit more about your philosophy.
Well, your listeners should know this is a loaded question, Brian, because you and I have talked about this before, and I am passionate about giving dealers what they want and need, and not a whole bunch of stuff that they maybe don't want or don't need. I think I've been in this industry for 34 years and serving dealers the majority of that after I left the dealership. It drives me crazy that as an industry, we are in a spot where the technologies exist. And if we would work together as vendors and dealers, we could actually change the consumer experience and we could make all of our businesses better. But instead, it's like, no, we're not going to work together. You have to do all of our stuff. Every vendor's against it, everybody else. And I don't understand how the industry tolerates it. What we have to do as vendors is say, we are willing to work with whoever the dealer's vendors are. And if the dealer has a need for a technology, a piece of data, a service that we offer, we should give it to them. And there is a fair exchange of services and remuneration there that can take place. And we can actually work with other vendors to make the dealer more successful. I don't comprehend how vendors have this empirical mindset that they're somehow going to own the world if they don't work with other vendors to help dealers. So for our clients, we're happy to work with any vendor to help advance the cause and the purpose of the dealership.
And let me put in context also, a similar philosophy, Jonathan, in regards to PCG Digital, the agency that I founded that is being run by Denise and my brother Glenn. I told them, just as we opened up today's podcast, that we can no longer allow our customers to start from zero every time they switch an agency. And if they want to fire us as their agency, we need to leave them better off than when we began. And so we said, going forward, we're going to strongly recommend that our customers invest in a CDP. We started off with Orbi. We are now being trained on client command, and we're, in a sense, eating our own dog food, because what we want as an agency is we want to work with whatever technologies the dealer wants to use and fill in the gaps. And I think that's why I think ideologically we get along so well, Jonathan, because you're proud of your product. You're not afraid to be transparent. Same thing. I'm proud of my team. I know we're in a competitive space, but if we can leave the dealers with a mastery of their data, with the utilization of their data, we're really going to be, in a long term, I think, more rewarded, because dealers will appreciate our care and concern for their data first.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, Brian. And ultimately, the dealers write the checks in this industry, so we should be serving them.
You know, Jonathan, one of the twist words, the shiny object word, is AI. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to know the difference between programming, machine learning, and AI, because, you know, AI is being used all the time, but we're starting to see AI in action, whether it's how Adobe is integrating AI into their graphical tools, where you can write a sentence and it will draw a photo, or how you can, you know, do deep fakes of people in videos. It's pretty amazing what AI is doing to transform media, marketing, graphics, design. But AI is also extremely promising in looking through data, predicting patterns, making next best suggestions for marketing or outreach. How is Client Command looking at AI to help dealers take the Active Shopper network to the next level?
Yeah, so great question. I need to clarify something. We didn't just stumble upon AI in 2023. We've been using AI for 10 years. We started with NLP. We now use NLP and LLMs, if you're familiar with AI. We get data from over 60 billion URLs every single day in real time, and we update our offline data 100 million times a day. It is not possible for a human to consume that much data, and even machine learning can't process all the things that happen. The way we use it is we learn from every consumer interaction, every data change. AI is incredibly good at pattern recognition. When there are a series of interactions or types of interactions that often or always take place before a transaction, whether it be purchase or service, AI doesn't miss that. It's impossible with humans. It's impossible with machine learning, but AI does it. And that's how our Active Shopper network is driven. And that's how it matches dominant buying motives, intensities of shopping, consideration sets with the consumer's behavior, and then delivers that to a dealer, an ad agency, or an OEM as a consumer with a very specific consideration set in a very specific place on their journey.
You know, Jonathan, I want to add to that, because sometimes I think you have to say it multiple ways for dealers to truly understand what we're talking about. The Active Shopper network knows when consumers are on third-party classified sites, on OEM websites, on your competitor websites, the searches that they're doing, the ads that they're clicking on, and, of course, what they're doing on your website, and eventually what they come in and do, whether that is a purchase, a test drive, a service, a recall. And I want you to understand what Jonathan's saying, because they have hundreds or even thousands of data points on shoppers as they go through the funnel and eventually come into the dealer's DMS and eventually purchase a car. These patterns start to become predictive. So if somebody does this and this and this with this in this time period, hey, they're most likely going to transact soon. And what we're getting at is that the more robust data, the more accurate that prediction is. Dealers could try to use their own website data to have some predictive patterns, but it is a small data set compared to all the places that consumers go. And that's the power of the Active Shopper Network. So as we step back, I want you to think about Client Command as a hybrid CDP, meaning they do not have to do all the marketing. They can do whatever marketing you want them to do. You want them to do no marketing? Great. Or you want them to do some marketing? Super. You want it turnkey? No problem. But here's the key. You're not just relying on your own website shopper data. You're supplementing, filling in the gaps by the Active Shopper Network, which gives you unparalleled insights into what's happening in your local market. And Jonathan, I'm going to go back to the beginning. You mentioned in the last 24 hours in the state of Texas, there was 45,000 people who were actively shopping. Can you define what triggers someone from a casual internet click to an active shopper? Because someone's going to say, I think that number's too low. And of course, you're intentionally making that number lower because marketing is expensive and we want to use our marketing dollars wisely. So at a high level, what patterns in online shopping behavior or clicks or views or engagement eventually triggers someone to be an active shopper?
Yeah, so Brian, there are obviously a number of people that might read about a new vehicle or a sports car, whether it be a Ferrari, a Corvette, a Mustang, and they're super interested in it, but they are no more in the market for that car than I'm in the market to buy property in China. They're just interested in something about that car. It's a novelty to them. But there are very specific behaviors that our AI has picked up over the years that take place in a consumer's browsing patterns, as well as their offline life, that say this consumer is actively shopping for a car. These clicks have intent. Some of that could be, are they reading about things like safety? Some of it could be, have they just gotten a promotion at their job? Or do they have a kid? Or have they recently moved? And we're seeing other indicators that say, hey, these are not accidental clicks. Obviously, there's some filters that you put in where if you have an 18-year-old that doesn't come from a family with substantial money and they're looking at Ferraris, that's aspirational, that's not real. But there are also some 18-year-old, 20-year-old, 23-year-olds that do come from families with a high net worth, and they're actually trying to find their first car. Only AI is going to be able to identify the consumer that's shopping and differentiate that from the consumer that's not. And given enough data, it's scientific. It's not a guess. It's right 99% of the time.
And that's what I love about the future of automotive marketing. One-to-one communication fueled by good data with data points showing consumer actions on and off the dealer's website. And I want to lean in on this one area. Dealers know that if you can get a consumer to service their vehicle the first few times in that vehicle's life, they're most likely going to set a pattern, and that consumer will most likely, unless your service department is a nightmare, continue to service. Dealers also know that there are elapsed service customers in their DMS. What they don't know is, hey, does that person even still own that car? Are they servicing at another competitor, or are they servicing at an independent? This is a data-driven strategy. By working with data partners, with platforms that can ingest data, dealers can update ownership records. They can supplement by service history outside their dealership. And as Jonathan's active shopper network, when is that customer on a competitor or on a third-party classified? This insight is something that we sorely need, because for the most part, you only can market to your existing customers so much. You have to start building a network of conquest opportunities. Jonathan, when you think of the customers who've been using your platform and the feedback that they've given you, what would you say to a dealer who's listening, would love the idea of having better audiences in their local market based on real data, not modeled, likes the idea of this competitive insights, but they're still on the fence? What would you say to them?
First off, I would say have the courage to at least test some better data. And then ask yourself, do you really like spending $50,000, $100,000 a month, whatever your marketing budget is? Or if you could get the same or better results by spending half that or less, would you be interested? And if you would be, then how are you going to get there? The way I would propose that you get there is the first thing you could do is cut the waste out of your advertising. And it's impossible to argue attribution as a marketing company, to argue it effectively. Is it first touch? Is it last touch? Is it multi-touch? Brian, I think you even had a company about this that dealt with that very thing. At the end of the day, I believe that just drilling down the audience will allow you to become much more effective. The data shows that. It will allow you to increase your profitability on a per transaction basis. And if you have the courage to test it, then what you're going to find is a whole nother world begins to open up in terms of competitive advantage and ways that you can push your dealership forward. If you're comfortable with where you are or where your clients are as an ad agency, then by all means, don't even waste time listening to podcasts. Like, you're good. Sorry, Brian, you should probably strike that last comment.
No, we like that, Jonathan, because here's the truth. Truth of the matter is sometimes people get comfortable. They feel that they're getting great results from their marketing. And what you're basically saying, but is it data-driven marketing? Is it tactically driven? Is it data-informed video? Data-informed email marketing? Or is it just load up the DMS data and the CRM data and hope that someone opens up an email? It's absolutely fine to say, look, a data-driven strategy isn't for everyone. It's for dealers who say, I need to be more efficient. I have to be a good steward with the monies that are allocated for marketing. I need to be a better steward of the customers that I serve. I need to do a better job at increasing lifetime value and retention. And I'm only going to do that if I start to treat my first-party data with care. Jonathan, we've talked about your platform. We are going to be talking about your platform at the Modern Retailing Conference, November 12th, 13th, and 14th in Palm Beach. In fact, this interview is one of a series of conversations of the companies that are leading the charge in first-party data management. If somebody wanted to get a demo of your platform to understand the active shopper network and even see how many active shoppers are in the zip codes that they serve, where's the best place for them to go and book an appointment?
So clientcommand.com, client, C-L-I-E-N-T, command, C-O-M-M-A-N-D.com. Tell us you heard about us on the podcast. You want to know how many active shoppers are in your market, and we'll be happy to schedule a demo, give you some information. talk to you about what's going on in your market and hear exactly the problems you're trying to solve. And we'll let you know if we have something that could help you fill some gaps.
Amen. Amen. And here's what I've learned. Regardless of how efficient any dealership is, there's always gaps. And great data with great execution often can fill gaps, especially if the data you're bringing to the table is something the dealer doesn't have in their hands. Jonathan, I want to thank you so much for your work in first-party data management, your pioneering efforts with the Active Shopper Network. Congratulations on your patent and your leadership in this space. And I know that dealers will be reaching out as more and more dealers realize that first-party data management is critical for dealership operations. The third leg of dealership operating software will be a CDP. So the DMS, the CRM, and the CDP will be those three legs to the stool that give support to modern retailing operations. And for dealers who are listening to this podcast, if this is the first time you've been listening in, you should know that there are dozens of interviews with industry leaders, technology gurus, and of course, successful dealer operators that are sharing their wisdom. So just search for the Brian Pash podcast and you'll have a chance to see all of those podcast interviews. And just keep in mind that if you're a dealer and can get out to Palm Beach, November 12th, 13th, 14th, you can sit down with Jonathan, see the Active Shopper Network live, and also learn about what other dealers are doing to manage their first-party data. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show, and I want to thank everyone who's listening in. Thanks for your time, and I'll catch you next time on another podcast interview.